Hi everyone, and welcome to the recorded orientation for Nursing 4701. I'm Shelley Pope, the clinical coordinator again this term. I'm so glad that you're all finally here. This session is filled with important information to help you succeed, so I encourage you to listen carefully and take notes if needed. Don't worry, you can always revisit this recording at any time. It'll be posted in Canvas. So let's dive in and get started.
So let's take a moment to talk about our nursing program goals. While I won't go over every single one in detail, I want to highlight some key points about them. It's important to understand that every course in this program, including this one, has specific learning outcomes. However, on a broader level, our program goals outline milestones that all graduates are expected to achieve by the time they complete the program. Because you're in your final semester, these goals are especially significant for you as you prepare to transition into your practice. Here are some key goals of our nursing program. So graduates will demonstrate safe, competent, ethical, and compassionate nursing practice. They will actualize professional and caring relationships in their work. Graduates will synthesize critical inquiry, scientific inquiry, research, and other ways of knowing. They will champion social justice and demonstrate leadership in their roles. They will commit to critically reflective practice and actively advocate with and for people, including themselves. These goals represent the foundation of professional nursing practice. They are not only milestones for graduation, but also lifelong commitments that guide us as we grow from graduates into experienced nurses. As you move forward, I encourage you to reflect on these goals, integrate them into your practice, and continue striving towards them throughout your nursing journey. Let's go over a few housekeeping notes for this course. First, I'll be communicating important updates through Canvas, just as last term, so please make it a habit to check them regularly. These will also contain key information that you need to know, so staying on top of them is crucial. If you need to contact me, please ensure you include your clinical instructor in the email as well. It can be quite challenging when separate emails are sent to different people about the same issue. For example, if you're writing to Marcia, your clinical instructor, and me about the same topic, make sure all three of us are included in that same thread. If you don't include your clinical instructor in an email to me, I will often ask you to add them before responding. This ensures that we're all on the same page and we can address your concerns collaboratively. So please take note of this process. It is an important part of ensuring clear and effective communication occurs between us all. Let's talk about how to communicate any issues, concerns, or problems that arise in the clinical environment. So the first person you should always talk to is your clinical instructor, of course. Ideally, you're communicating with them regularly about any questions or concerns. If further support is needed, the next step is to involve the clinical lead or course coordinator, which, of course, this is me. From there, if the issue still requires escalation, you would involve the Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, followed by the Associate Dean, which is Hildy. So please ensure that you are following the appropriate path. As you know, there's a math test every term, and this term there is no exception. Before you're eligible to take the test, it's mandatory that you listen to this recording in full. In year 4, you must achieve 100% on the math test to meet course requirements, just as you did last term. According to the academic calendar, this must be completed by the last day to drop courses without financial penalty, which is typically the first 2 weeks of the term. I think this term, your last day to do it would be January 17th. It is very important to complete this early and do not let it drag on. If you do not achieve the 100% by the deadline, you will be withdrawn from the course. Here are a few key details about the test. You will have 60 minutes to complete it, the same as in previous years. The test is designed to be finished within 30 minutes, but we allow double time for everyone. There's no additional accommodations that are provided for this test, as it evaluates specific skills directly aligned with the CNO requirements. To avoid any issues, please begin your attempt at the math test as soon as possible. This will give you enough time to complete it successfully before the deadline. You will have multiple attempts to achieve 100% on the math test. If you are unsuccessful your first attempt, you can continue with additional attempts until you pass. I also strongly encourage you to utilize available resources to address any areas where you might be struggling. If there are specific concepts or skills that you are missing, take the time to learn and practice them before you go in and attempt again. There are a lot of resources to support you. So materials available on Canvas, online resources, including instructional videos and practice tools. You could also utilize the Student Life Service Center, which offers access to math specialists and tutors. It's crucial to achieve 100% mastery on your math test as soon as possible. If you do not have 100% at any point during your practicum, you will be not permitted to prepare or administer medication. This is a key rule and it directly impacts your ability to meet the required competencies in medication administration. So achieving 100% on this test is not just a course requirement, but a crucial step in ensuring safe, confident practice. Please take it seriously and begin preparing early to set yourself up for success. Nursing 4701, you're required to complete 420 hours of practicum. We expect that all students complete the full 420 hours. Exceptions are extremely rare. While your attendance policy allows for up to 10% of hours to be missed, this is only granted in extraordinary circumstances and requires consultation with both your clinical instructor and the practicum coordinator. Please understand that this policy is not a guarantee and should not be relied upon. To ensure success, start your clinical hours promptly and maintain a steady pace throughout the term. During this time, you will work closely with your preceptor and clinical instructor who will support, guide, and evaluate you as you progress. Completing your hours is essential for meeting the program's expectations and achieving your program goals. A bit of info about practicum expectations. These are the learning outcomes for the course. So on successful completion of this clinical practicum, students will be able to establish and maintain professional caring relationships in dyads and families, so of origin or by choice, groups and/or communities, promote health through the safe application of nursing knowledge and care with clients from an ethic of caring, use ways of knowing to deepen the understanding of the lived experience of individuals, families, so of origin and of choice, groups and/or communities, utilize decision-making model to perform nursing interventions, so actions, treatments, techniques, to promote health, prevent disease and injury, maintain and restore health, promote rehab, and palliation. These are all important learning outcomes to work towards.
Fourth-year nursing students, these practicum expectations are important. So your schedules are based off your preceptor schedule, which means that you can work any shift, days, evenings, nights. You would want to include a variety of shifts if possible. So it's crucial to have the flexibility this term so that you can follow your preceptor's work schedule. We ask that you do no double shifts, that's 16 hours, no overtime shifts, no half shifts, as this is not a good use of time. But if you only have the 4 or 6 hours available to you to get your last hours in, definitely go ahead and do it. Talk to your CSI about it. You can only work your 5 consecutive 8-hour shifts or your 3 consecutive 12-hour shifts. There is an exception to that rule, and that is the day, night rotations. Because there's that 24-hour window of recovery time where you'll have off between day to night shifts. However, that being said, it is important to acknowledge that this is an extremely heavy workload. It's also very exhausting. It increases the risk for safety, errors, and or something to happen. So please monitor your energy levels as you progress through the term. I know that a lot of you will be very keen and anxious to just want to get all your hours done, but self-care is important too. So pace yourselves as you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I really want to emphasize this. So please do not work more than 5 consecutive 8-hour shifts or the 3 consecutive 12-hour shifts, as this is poor clinical judgment. It is not acceptable, and it displays a lack of understanding of principles of safety and fitness to practice, which speaks to your clinical competence.
So as previously mentioned, you must complete all 420 hours by the end of the semester, the last day of classes, as we find it real difficult to get extensions now. So please be finished by April 4th. An exception for not meeting all clinical hours is rarely granted and occurs on a one-to-one basis due to extraordinary circumstances, as previously mentioned. So I'm talking about that 10% of missed time that can be applied, but in saying that, you'd only be granted this if you are meeting your clinical competencies. So that is the main point. Otherwise, if you're not meeting your clinical competencies, it may not be granted. You must complete approximately about a half of your time by midterm, so that's 210 hours. Do not forget the preceptors have to sign off on your timesheets at midterm and final evaluation with a copy of this submitted to your clinical instructor. So you cannot go to clinical during study week, holidays, or days with no scheduled academic activities according to the university policy and the academic calendar. There are no exceptions to this. The course outline includes these dates, but I also encourage you to refer to the academic calendar for specific details.
So make sure you go through the nursing program handbook. You must know particular sections, and I will highlight key points that you will need to remember as you move forward throughout the term.
I want to highlight a few important social media guidelines. We expect students to use social media responsibly and professionally in line with the university's code of conduct and policies. These behaviors are crucial to maintain a professional reputation. Given the accessibility of social media, we've seen an increase in issues that students encounter over the term, so it's important that you are aware of these guidelines. Here are some important guidelines to follow. So always act professional at all times. That means not looking at personal social media devices while you're working, in a patient room, or at the front desk. You only do that on your break and outside of work hours. Always keep your posts positive, never include anything about a patient, a person, or the institution, because this can really get you in trouble. Many placement sites do surveillance monitoring, meaning that they monitor all social media. If you ever post anything referring to a particular institution or healthcare agency, it can be picked up very quickly. Make sure you protect yourself. This is your reputation as well as the institution's reputation that you are representing, including the Faculty of Health Sciences and the Ontario Tech Durham College, the nursing program. It's really important to be careful with this. Make sure that you keep yourself private so you're not sharing personal information with those it doesn't make sense to. And before you post anything online, make sure that you think about it before you do. So really pause. We're all in the habit of moving very quickly and working with social media in various ways. So definitely take that pause and think about whether it's an appropriate use or not.
So fitness to practice is defined as freedom from any cognitive, physical, psychological, or emotional condition or dependence on alcohol or drugs that impairs your ability to provide nursing care. It also includes lack of sleep, proper nutrition, and/or use of substances that affect cognition, psychological or emotional conditions that affect the ability to safely practice nursing. So fitness to practice is also being ready with the knowledge and skills needed to go in to do your shift. This year, but especially this year in year 4, you are moving towards independent practice. We are looking for your ability to evaluate your own fitness to practice and then to practice within the guidelines of conduct that we do talk about. Remember that you cannot work an overnight shift the night before practicum day. You need to have at least 8 hours off between employment and the scheduled practicum shift. You need the physical and mental rest. This ensures self-advocacy, much needed self-care. If you are not abiding by these guidelines for fitness to practice, you can be subject to the professional suitability policy, where you may have to redo your semester.
Privacy and confidentiality are crucial. It's important to understand and follow the rules, which often includes signing confidentiality and privacy forms. Any breaches are considered serious and are investigated by both the healthcare agency and the university. You should only Access records that fall within your circle of care. This means not accessing any personal records, those of family, friends, colleagues, or anyone else. Even reviewing patient information to remember it for an RCA, or taking photographs of patient charts is a breach of privacy and confidentiality. This kind of behavior can lead to significant consequences, including removal from the placement, as healthcare agencies often require if there is a breach. So make sure you fully understand these expectations.
Really make sure that you know your skills list for fourth year students. I mean, every year is important to know, but this year there have been some changes. So please make sure that you know what these are. This is really important. The skill list is also posted in Canvas on its own for you to print off, and you can make sure to give this to your preceptor so you're both on the same page. There has also been many changes in healthcare, so it's important for you to remember that you cannot step outside of your role. You are not practicing as an RN or an RPN in Practicum. In Practicum, you are in the role as a BSEN student. As you already know, there are many shortages in healthcare and staff, and sometimes students are being asked to step into situations that are not appropriate for their scope. Please do not do this. You will need to withdraw from that, get appropriate help, as you need to have the proper support as a student. There have been emergency situations that had poor outcomes. So please do not engage in activities that you know to be incorrect. Please talk to your CSI and me if you have any questions about this.
Now let's talk about some progression expectations in 4701. So I'm drawing a comparison with 4700. So in 4700, you started taking on a significant portion of preceptor's patient load. The goal, if possible, for this term is to care for the equivalent of 100% of that load. So however, this is not true in all cases, especially in high acuity areas or other situations where it's not appropriate. What's important is that you're providing comprehensive care to the patients assigned to you. We don't want you rushing ahead and taking on too many patients if it compromises patient safety. The idea is to organize yourself, move more efficiently, and take on responsibilities as you gain experience. Progression throughout the term is key, starting at the beginning and advancing to the end. We want to see continuous growth in your skills and your responsibilities.
So this is the overall breakdown of expected student progress. I will not go through this, but this does give you an idea of the breakdown of where you should be in terms of hours and the timing and how roles and relationships form across the semester. Working with your clinical sessional instructor. In working with your CSI, in most cases, you will be communicating directly with them and not me. Your clinical sessional instructor is experienced and is very aware of the processes and procedures related to your practicum and can advise you. However, if you do need to contact me, please do always make sure to include your CSI within that email to me. You want to make sure that you're keeping your clinical sessional instructor informed. You must give your clinical schedule to your clinical sessional instructor before you attend any shift. This is very critical because this is your coverage, your safety, and it provides the proper code of conduct. It is not okay to not keep your clinical instructor informed about your schedule. Make sure that you go through your learning plan and get that done early. Be sure to discuss any concerns that you may be having with your preceptors, with your clinical instructor, as soon as possible, as small problems can often turn into larger issues fast, but if you communicate early, then these problems can be remediated quickly. For fourth year nursing students, what we're looking for is increased independence. It is your responsibility to negotiate and to organize with your clinical instructor your learning plan submission dates, RCA submission dates, midterm and final evaluations. It is not in your clinical instructor's role to be required to chase you down to make sure that you are handing in your assignments on time. If you're not arranging and negotiating the pieces of work to be handed in, which are evidence of your met competencies, you will be at risk for not being successful this term. So please make sure that you organize yourself over the term. Take a good look at your course outline for the breakdown of when things are due. You can negotiate within the weeks the exact date that the above pieces will be done. Also, give your clinical instructor your preceptors and your schedule, and make sure that your clinical instructor knows your preceptor's name and contact information that will be located in HSPNet. I really want to emphasize the importance of having that daily or weekly check-in with your clinical instructor. Learning plans, you've done these before all throughout the years. So you are doing these learning plans after the first or second week after you start clinical. They're based on the CNO quality assurance. You must identify at least 3 learning needs and goals. I know that the form says only 2, but you will need to do 3 for each. Then move forward through the learning plan to complete as you need to. If it is inadequate, your clinical instructor will return it to you. So make sure that it is a learning plan that is reflective of a final term BSc and nursing student who is about to go into practice as a new nurse. As you know, we continue these learning plans throughout the rest of our careers. You will be doing clinical updates for your clinical instructor throughout the term. These are known as your reflective critical analysis submissions. Those are those RCAs that you do every semester throughout your placements. Instead of using the Johns model, as you have in previous terms for your RCA, you're now going to be following the Tanner's model of clinical judgment. This involves noticing, interpreting, responding, and reflecting, which all is self-explanatory. Purpose is to let your clinical instructor know about your day-to-day activities. These are to demonstrate your knowledge, critical thinking, and clinical judgment, as your clinical instructor will be needing to evaluate this throughout your reflective writing. So for these clinical updates, there should be a template and a recording in Canvas about how to work with this new format. There is no word limit, and you're going to cite an APA as needed, knowledge that is not common knowledge. CSIs, they may or may not comment on the updates. Usually no news is great news, but they might, if it's inadequate, they might send it back to you and you will need to redo. You will only need to do 3 throughout the semester on your negotiated dates to hand them in. However, if your CI requires for you to do more, you can do a 4th or a 5th one. You can also incorporate throughout your reflection nursing theories, your ethical principles from year 3, Curative process, and you want to discuss diversity. It's also a good idea to share these with your preceptor so that they can know where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and they can offer further feedback, as this adds more to them to base your evaluation on.
This term you will do a mock test to help you with your NCLEX preparation. This will be due by the end of week 11 with the exact date to be negotiated with your clinical instructor. You'll need to take a screenshot at the end and then submit it into Canvas. You should have access to Nurse Achieve, which you used in 4700. This resource covers a full 360 days, extended beyond the completion of 4701. It is a valuable tool in preparing for the NCLEX, so make sure you utilize it throughout the term. Starting this work early will be beneficial, as you will need to take the NCLEX relatively soon after graduation. Use it this term to build up your skills and prepare effectively. So next we'll be talking about important things to know when working with your preceptor. When working with your preceptor, know your contact information on the unit early. You'll find this information on HSPNet just as last term. And it will be coming in a little bit slower, so it might show up before this online orientation or a little bit after, but that's okay. It will show up. It's really important to give your preceptor these documents early in the term: a copy of your midterm final evaluation, CNO entry to practice competencies, the preceptor's experience handbook, and the nursing program handbook. That's if they want it, and the skills list. So in Canvas, you'll find a module that contains all these documents for easy access. And it's it's really important that you do give these documents to your preceptor as early as possible, because your preceptor needs to know all these pieces so that they can move forward and work with you appropriately. So some of you may have had the opportunity to initiate 5Es during your last clinical placement in 4700. This term, depending on your site, you may get that opportunity again. If you do, please let me know, because I will need to go in and manually grade that test for you to let me know if you've achieved 100%. To proceed, you'll need to review the learning module and Canvas and complete the associated test. This is the same test and module as last term, so it should be already familiar to you. The module and test are available now. Once you've successfully completed the test, I will notify your preceptor and your clinical instructor that you're cleared to practice 5E initiation at your placement.
For midterm and final evaluations, these forms must be handed in at midterm and at the end of the semester. They're based on the updated CNO entry to practice competencies. You must demonstrate how you're meeting these competencies. The onus is on you. It is not on your preceptor or CI. They comment and evaluate, but you must show this. So I suggest that you give your preceptor and your clinical instructor time to add their comments. So you'd probably want to submit it about a week before you meet with them. And remember that this is your responsibility to negotiate this with them. So you'll have your final evaluation returned to you in PDF at the end of the term for your own personal files.
Have a wonderful term, Nursing 4701. I'm here to support you throughout the term, so don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything, and I wish you all the best success. You're almost there.